Heavyweight champion, UFC heavyweight champion.
And we're gonna find out who is the baddest on the planet.
It's all about spirit and energy.
Before Mike Tyson was the most feared man on earth, he was a scared kid crying before fights, afraid of losing, afraid of being nobody, afraid of himself. But that fear, it didn't destroy him. It made the Tyson we know now. For when fear is faced, it turns to fire. And that's when legends are made. Mike Tyson wasn't born with gloves on. He was born into chaos. Brownsville, Brooklyn, where survival was the only goal. Where fear wasn't just something you felt, it was something you breathed in daily. By the time he was an early teenager, Mike had been arrested 38 times. It was a mix of fighting, stealing, and surviving. And it wasn't all out of ill intent, but out of necessity. Young Tyson was tired of being vulnerable, afraid of getting hurt, and fed up with being ignored. All of those emotions would soon become his first coach. Before the fame, belts, and fans, fear taught him how to move, not with grace, not with strategy, but with rage and desperation. There's a lie we're told as kids, that fear is weakness. We're told that to be strong, you must be fearless. But Tyson's life shows the truth. The baddest man in the world was filled with fear. And that's what made him great. Here's the part that applies to you. Whatever fear you carry is not your enemy, no matter if it's fear of failure, being inadequate, or fear of the future, because that energy is your edge. Tyson didn't erase fear. He faced it. He stepped into the ring with it. And every time he threw a punch, he was punching his own doubt.
I'm totally afraid. I'm afraid of everything. I'm afraid of losing. I'm afraid of being humiliated. But I'm totally confident. The closer I get to the ring, the more confidence I get. Once I'm in the ring, I'm a god. No one could beat me.
But what I found out in life, as life goes on, life is about losing.
He was afraid of losing, so he trained harder than his opponents. He was scared of getting hurt, so he hit harder and faster. He was scared of being a nobody, so he became a legend at the age of 20. Fear is not the flame that burns you. It's the flame that forges you, but only if you learn to control it. Tyson's greatest coach, Cus D'Amato, once said,
"Fear is like fire. If you learn to control it, you can make it work for you. If you let it get out of control, it can destroy you and everything around you, or like a snowball on a hill."
Learn from the legends and take control now. Write this down. What am I afraid of? Make a list. Give it a title, because fear loses power the moment that it's said out loud. That's round one of your own fights. Sometimes your life trajectory can pivot on a single encounter. For Mike Tyson, that meeting happened in a juvenile detention in upstate New York. Here, Tyson met a man named Bobby Stewart, and with a pair of boxing gloves, Tyson's life would change forever.
The nerve to work in something and stay out of trouble. You can't be in trouble and be a fighter. And let's see your behavior. Let's see how things happen. Well, 2 weeks go by, not a problem.
Mike behaved, not because he had a sudden change of heart, but for the first time, he had something worth behaving for.
Mike Tyson came to me as a result of an interest taken in him by a fellow named Bobby Stewart, who was a former professional fighter.
And that would change history. Cus wasn't just a boxing trainer. He was a philosopher, a psychologist, a father figure. When he looked at Tyson, he didn't see a criminal. He saw fire, and Cus knew what to do with fire.
Cus has helped me in aspects and believing in myself. There's no way you're going to make it in life anything. Being a carpenter, being a marble collector, you have to believe in yourself. And most likely, a lot of people became famous and believed in themselves. And now I believe in myself, and everything I believe in myself is true because I know I'm the best, and everybody else knows too. People knew I was the best before I did, and that's a little ridiculous. So it's about time I believed I'm the best. And now that I believe I'm the best, that's when it became fun. And thanks to Cus, I picked it up kind of late. I just realized it really that I'm the best. I believed in myself, but everybody else in the country and everybody else that saw me fight already knew it.
Belief. That's what Cus gave Tyson. Before Cus ever taught him how to jab, He taught him the most lethal weapon a man could ever possess, having a purpose. Fear was still there. It didn't disappear, but now it had direction. With boxing, Tyson learned that fear was a tool he could mold into discipline, concentration, and obsession. And here's where you come in. We all have fear, but not all of us have a Cus. So become your own. What does that mean? It means becoming your own coach. It means taking your fear and giving it direction through a routine to eventually accomplish that one life goal. Ask yourself, what am I running from? And how can I run towards something meaningful instead? Mike found more than boxing. He found structure through a man who said, "You matter." Not because of wins, but of worth. Most people think champions are made in the ring, but they're made in silent gyms, late-night talks, and in moments when somebody finally says, "You are more than what you're afraid of." Success can be deafening. It blinds you. It praises you until you can't recall who you were before it all began. Mike Tyson didn't fall because of failure. He fell from the weight of victory. He had it all: money, fame, power. But the man who once lived on discipline was now addicted to freedom. And freedom without structure, it is just another kind of prison. When Cus D'Amato passed away in 1985, Tyson lost more than a mentor. He lost his mirror.
This went so fast. God, I wish you would have saw me. I wish you would have saw my children and stuff. It's a really interesting guy. He didn't care about money and nothing. Just like me, it's a worry junkie.
The one man who reminded him why he fought was gone. All that remained was a lost boy, but it wasn't the same one from Brownsville. Tyson was now made for success, but soon enough, the fear of losing it all was going to catch up. Without discipline, Tyson became invisible and unknown. He skipped training, disobeyed his corner, and began indulging in every temptation that called his name. And then he fell, not just in the ring, but into reality. For the first time, Iron Mike hit the floor, not because he wasn't strong, but because his foundation was gone. This wasn't defeat, it was exposure. On the outside, the world saw a fighter, but within stood a man who had no one to keep his head straight, no more Cus to tell him, "You're losing yourself." Here's the truth: success without values will consume you. If you're ascending in your career, fitness, or personal life, ask yourself, what's grounding me? Is it a person, a purpose, or moral principles? Because when the spotlight arrives, you need something to draw you back to earth. Tyson didn't lose because he was weak. He lost because he was alone and lacked discipline. Without guidance, even the strongest fall. And in that fall, Tyson found something more powerful than any title: the truth. When the invincible falls, the world watches. But what matters isn't the fall. It's what you find down there. For Mike Tyson, that moment wasn't just the end of a streak. It was the start of reality. The Buster Douglas fight wasn't about talent. It was about heart. Douglas fought for his mother, who died just a few weeks before. Tyson? He fought because he had an ego to maintain, not out of purpose. And that's when everything changed, because sometimes defeat is the only thing strong enough to wake you up. After the loss, the downward spiral accelerated. In the immense regret he felt, only money and chaos could numb the pain. Eventually, that turned into prison time, isolation, and public shame. And yet in that silence, something shifted. That's the irony of pain. It humbles the ego and awakens the man. He started to look within, not at knockouts or belts, but at character, on why he fought, and who he wanted to be without the noise. The punch that hurt the most wasn't from an opponent. It was from the truth. He had become everything he swore he wouldn't be. And from that wound came wisdom. Recall your last failure. What did it teach you? What strength did it uncover? Write this down. I lost, but I learned, and finish that sentence. Because if you don't learn from your losses, you'll repeat them. This was Mike's redemption, but in a different light. Real strength doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from making mistakes and looking in the mirror and saying, This is not the end, for there was never a great man in history who didn't fail. But every great man has learned from their failures. The man who once spoke about ripping hearts out now speaks of love, of peace, of humility. The man who could paralyze grown men with his presence now realizes that fear shaped him long before the world knew his name. Mike Tyson's story isn't about power. It's about pain and what you do with it, because it wasn't the belts that made him a man. It wasn't the knockouts, headlines, or highlight reels. It was what came after: the silence, the solitude, the rebuilding. He found peace in exposing his alternate personality, and that's the hardest fight of all, defeating your own ego. So what about you? Maybe you're in a season of fear. Maybe you've won and feel lost. Maybe you've failed and feel worthless. But here's the truth. Your story isn't over, and your scars don't devalue you. They make you authentic. Take this moment right now. Ask yourself, who do I want to become? Not when it's easy, but when it's hard and lonely. That's where greatness starts. Mike Tyson was built from fear, but he didn't die there. He turned fear into fire, and from that, he built a future. This video isn't about boxing. It's about you and the storm you're facing. Because if a scared kid from Brownsville, Brooklyn can rise through violence, addiction, and death, then so can you. And if you're ready to begin your transformation, then watch this video.